folks, and welcome to another edition of the Organist Entertains. This is lots of people's virtual church once per week, so I thought I would dress up a little for today's episode instead of seeing me in what is becoming the obligatory shorts and t-shirt. So perhaps this makes people feel that I'm dressed for virtual church as you're sitting in your homes attending virtual church. But tonight's episode is full of the hymns and songs that you want to hear, so let's get on and introduce each one of them for you. But before we do get on, what I would like to say is send your requests through to me as usual. It is great to hear from you. We do sometimes post an old song or a new song on the church Facebook account, and that sometimes generates a little bit of interest. And one of those songs features tonight. We have hymns from down the road in Uddingston, from New Monkland, from Wishaw, and we even have a request all the way from South Africa. So we are reaching out far and wide with these episodes, little visits to Bellshill Central Parish Church. Now, before we do move on, what I will say is, you may have noticed that I try and sit somewhere different each time to introduce these videos. So today we have behind me, hopefully, a little bit of our creation window, and that is one of our Webster stained glass windows, which we're extremely proud of. We've got 4 of them in the building. So by me moving around the building, perhaps sitting in your seat, and showing you a little different view of the place, it's a way to help you keep connected, as well as hearing the organ and singing your favourite hymns. But anyway, that is enough from me. We'll now start introducing each of tonight's hymns. Our first hymn tonight is a request, and it also fits in quite nicely with the little mini-series on Psalms, which we started a couple of weeks back. It is, of course, the Scottish metrical psalm, God is our refuge, and it is to the metrical psalm tune of Stroudwater. This particular item has been requested by Bellshill Central stalwarts Alexa and Bobby Walker. So here we have for you your hymn request, God is our refuge. Our second item tonight is the request of Ed Anderson from South Africa, who has a connection with us here in Bellshill because he was the Organist Director of Music for our minister back in South Africa. Ed's request is the hymn, "O for a Heart to Praise My God." Now, when I looked up the hymn book, CH4, it's no longer in it. So I looked up CH3, CH4's predecessor, and I found it. However, the book I have at home is an old book from the church that I grew up in Wishaw. And we didn't sing it to the set tune back in Wishaw, which is St. Matthias. We sang it to the older tune of St. Ethelrelda. And Ed has asked for it to be sung to the tune A Bridge. So what I thought I would do to introduce another two tunes into the mix is, first of all, we hear it to the set tune of St. Matthias, then hear it to the tune which I remember and played it to when I played the organ in Wishaw, St. Ethelrelda, and then we hear it with all the words to the hymn to the tune A Bridge. So here is Ed, your hymn request, "O for a Heart to Praise My God." Our third item tonight is a more modern hymn, and it's been requested by my mum, Mary Mathew, who, when I was talking to her the other day there, said, "Why don't you play this? Why don't you play that?" And I ended up coming away with a list of about 10 hymns. So there are a couple which are going to feature over the next few weeks. The hymn is "Who Put the Colours in the Rainbow?" It talks about all the different types of animals, and it's even got a hyena in it towards the end. It's a fun hymn, and we sometimes sing it at harvest time. And it has been requested by my mum, as I said, Mary Mathew. So here we have "Who Puts the Colours in the Rainbow?" Our fourth item tonight is the hymn which we posted on the church Facebook page last week, I think it was, and it created a lot of chat and lots of happy memories, and some churches in Bellshill still actually sing it. It is the song "Hear the Pennies Dropping," which I'm sure lots of us sang at Sunday school as our collections were gathered in whilst we were there on a Sunday morning. Now, I only was aware of one verse and one chorus, but the online version of it has 4 verses, and these may be familiar to some of you, but they were certainly new to me. So here is a firm favourite of many people, and a song that brings back happy memories. "Hear the Pennies Dropping." Our next item tonight, which I think is the fifth item if I've not lost count, is the first of two requested from Elspeth Dornan. Elspeth sings with us in the church choir and is an alto, so always likes singing the harmonies of some of the older hymns. The hymn that she's requested is, like the hymn from Ed from earlier, is no longer in our current edition of the hymn book, so I had to go back to CH3 to find it. It's a hymn which I remember, and many of you will remember, being sang at the start of services. It is "We Love Thy Place, O God." It's a shorter hymn, it's a little bit more quieter, and I'm sure that you will enjoy it and remember it from years gone past. So thanks to Elspeth, here we have "We Love Thy Place, O God." Our next item tonight, and we're fairly moving through them tonight I think, is a hymn requested from Andrew MacLeod. Now, Andrew loves looking up hymns, he loves looking up tunes, and he loves figuring out what hymns can be sang to different tunes. Now, this hymn tune came to him, I believe, after we had the request from John Hume, I think, for "Oh, for a Thousand Tongues to Sing," when I played 3 different tunes that fitted it. And that made Andrew discover the tune Lydia. And it's set to, these days, the hymn "Jesus the Name High Over All." Now, for those of you who have hymn books at home with the music in it, go and look at the back of the book. Along with the alphabetical list of the first lines of the hymns, you will find a part of the book which lists the tunes. They're listed in 2 different ways normally. They're listed alphabetically, of course, but they're then listed by metre. Now, metre is the way that we catalogue particular hymn tunes, and it's all got to do with the number of syllables that each line has. Now, I forgot to bring the hymn book with me as I was doing this little introduction, and I am sure that Lydia is a common metre tune. However, it's a common metre tune which is extended. Now, that doesn't mean the builders have been brought in and there's an extension been put on the back. That just means that we need to sing one of the lines extra. So, for example, it could be sing line 1, sing line 2, sing line 2 again, line 3 and line 4. And that's what I mean by extended. Each of the lines have the number of syllables in it to make it a common metre. However, there's an extra line in it repeating one of them, which is where we get the term extended from. Now, as I say, go and look up your hymn book. At the back of it, you'll find these indexes, and you'll see that there's lots of hymns which are the same length, hymn tunes, which are the same length. So that's why we can sing things like "O for 1,000 Tongues" to Richmond and Southwark. And that's why we can sing things like "O for a Harp to Praise My God" to things like St Matthias, St Ethelreda and A Bridge, because the syllables are the same and the tunes have been written to fit those syllables. But anyway, I'm rambling now and I do apologise. We now have the hymn "Jesus the Name High Over All" to the tune of "Lydia," which has been requested by Andrew MacLeod from Glasgow. Well, we're at item 7, again if I've not lost count, which means we're coming to the end of tonight's virtual church with the Organist Entertains. The next hymn is called Singing We Gladly, and it's found in CH4. Now, if I remember rightly, this hymn has a Guatemalan heritage background to it, which means the rhythm is a little bit syncopated and maybe even a little bit dance-like for some of you. It's a hymn which I first introduced to the Bellshill Central Choir when I first became organist and choir master here, perhaps coming on 6 years ago. Now, the choir was a little bit smaller back then, and it was just ladies, and we had it arranged into a little 2-part harmony version for the chorus, and they did enjoy singing it, and we have sang it once or twice later on as hymns with the rest of the congregation. So it's a hymn that's not been requested, but it's a hymn that I, when flicking through the hymn book, stumbled across and thought, that's nice, that's happy, that's joyful, and it will give a little bit of a different feel to some of the older hymns that have been requested tonight. So for my wee choir here in Bellshill, one of the first things that I taught you, here we have Singing We Gladly. Now we have our penultimate request. It is the second request from Elspeth Dornan. So Morag, yes, that is 2 requests that Elspeth has had tonight, but don't worry, your request's coming up in a week or two's time. The thing that Elspeth has asked for isn't particularly the words, it's the tune. And it's a psalm tune called Covenanters. Now, I looked it up, and it's one of these hymn tunes. Because it's a common metre, it's set to different tunes. But the most common one that I found was The Race That Long in Darkness Pined, which is an Advent hymn. However, we're having it tonight to the Psalm, Psalm 23, which is The Lord's My Shepherd. Now, I know we had that last week, requested by Anne Guy, but we've had it requested again, and that's the whole point of these Organist Entertains, bringing you some sort of virtual church. We sing the things that you want us to. So here we have for Elspeth, your hymn tune, Covenanters, and the words which will accompany it on the screen is the 23rd Psalm, The Lord's My Shepherd. We've reached the last request of a hymn tune tonight. It's the second request from my mum, Mary Mathew, and it is the great hymn, Great is Thy Faithfulness. Now, we are coming towards the end of August and we are slipping into September as this episode has been recorded. And I'm finishing work for a fortnight's holiday, and perhaps with all the stuttering and all the mixing up of words, I'm maybe perhaps needing it. But anyway, the last request of a hymn is Great is Thy Faithfulness. And it talks about the changing seasons, it talks about summer and winter, and it's actually quite appropriate as we slide from summer into autumn. It's a great rousing hymn to finish, and the organ certainly gets a workout. And from me, I just wish to thank everybody once more for all your requests that come in week by week. But here we have, Great is Thy Faithfulness, requested from Mary Mathew. We have one more request tonight, but it's not a hymn. It is a sacred song, but it's not something that I would ever dare ask the congregation to sing on a Sunday morning. It's been requested by June Cook, who reminded me when she asked for it is that she doesn't request items all that often and that I must include it soon. Her request is from an oratorio by Handel. Yes, George Frederick Handel. The oratorio is The Messiah. Now, The Messiah was composed in 1741 and the texts were compiled by Charles Jennens from the King James Bible and from the Coverdale Psalter. It was first performed, The Messiah, in Dublin on the 13th of April 1742, and it received its London premiere nearly 1 year later. Now, after an initially modest public reception, the oratorio gained in popularity, eventually becoming one of the best known and frequently performed choral works in Western music. Now, June has requested the Hallelujah Chorus from Handel's Messiah, and that certainly gave me and the organ a workout this afternoon. And it's just a wonderful way to finish tonight's virtual church with your Organist Entertains here at Bellshill Central Parish Church. So thanks, June, for requesting the Hallelujah Chorus and giving us such a joyful and uplifting way to finish this evening. Finally, before I go, this is just a plug for the church. Below me somewhere, in the box, there is a link. That takes you to the Church of Scotland donations page, and should you like to make a donation to Bellshill Central Parish Church, perhaps as a sign of gratitude for all these videos of Organist Entertains bringing you virtual church, if you're tuning in and watching our Sunday services perhaps, or if you're following us via Facebook, Twitter or the church website for the prayers, the moments of reflection or the psalms which we post regularly, you can make a donation which does come to us at Bellshill Central. So thanks for joining us, enjoy the Hallelujah Chorus, stay safe, keep well, and we'll see you in 1 week's time. Good night.